Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Newscast, where I'll be going over the top news in the last week in retro handhelds, retro gaming, and just gaming in general. First up, I have some retro achievements sort of news, and we have some movement on Nintendo Wii retro achievements. It looks like it is in development. They're making some work. They're doing some things. It is maybe coming not so soon, but pretty soon. We know it's already been worked on, but now we're seeing some commits and some things, and yeah, it's coming. But also, looks like there's some progress on the Android side of things. So we might be able to see some GameCube Android retro achievements not too far in the future. So stay tuned, retro achievement users, because it looks like things are coming. Now, obviously, this is going to take a while. This is nowhere near in the next few months, maybe a year or so, but either way, work is work. In Winlator news, development is now paused. I didn't follow this super closely. I don't use Winlator, but this all started from a Reddit thread that found that Winlator was shipping with malware inside of it, and it would affect programs that were inside of Winlator, so not outside of it. This time, it didn't seem like it was a false positive. Like, for example, with Apollo and how there's a false positive there that they're aware of, and other GitHub projects that you've seen likely have a lot of false positives. This time, it seems like it was actually a real malware scenario or virus, whatever you want to call it. Now, it seems like the developer really took this one to heart. They released one hot-fixed version, which I have seen conflicting reports onto whether it fixed it or not. And they are now stepping back just due to all of these issues and citing kind of harassment and just not being happy with the way this was handled. Now, I don't know enough about the situation to comment any further, but it is unfortunate for those of you that would use Winlator. RetroArch version 1.21.0 is now out, and I am surprised at how small of a changelog it is. I took a quick look through it, nothing exciting that I can mention, but it is an update nonetheless. I did notice that they did move history to that middle tab, which I'm blanking on what it's called now. But if you use that UI, it is now gone off of that main home screen, which why don't I remember what that's called? Either way, it is now moved to where like the playlists and all that stuff is. So if you've been trying to find history and you updated, that's where it is. Otherwise, you can just update if you haven't. Now, just a quick note, for those of you that for some reason still use the Play Store version, or maybe don't know, that is still on 1.16. It is 5 versions behind, which is also 5 years behind. So get off of that Play Store version. There's also a new RPCSX update with Android 10 support and some other changes. Again, this is the PS3 emulator, although it is actually PS3, PS4, and PS5 all in one. Although I think for Android, it is only PS3. I never looked too deep into this, but I do know that they combined them all into one emulator. And I could be wrong about how that works, but for today's purposes, we're talking about PS3. Honestly, it's been cool to see how quickly PS3 emulation has been going on Android, and we are still nowhere near finished or anything like that, but it's cool to see updates here and there every week. Question of the week. Why do you handheld? It's a pretty simple question, I think, but what drives you towards using a handheld instead of, let's say, a telescopic controller with a phone, or maybe a tablet with a controller, or maybe a laptop, or maybe just your desktop and doing all of your emulation and games there? What drives you, or what makes a handheld the best way to play for you? Now, I'll answer because I'm asking the question, but for me, I am at my desk all day doing content creation up until 5 p.m. and then I'm off and I want to go play some video games and enjoy myself. So I don't want to go back to the desk that I was just sitting at for 8 or 9 or so hours or whatever it is. I want to go sit somewhere else or lie down somewhere else. So I do all of my gaming on the couch. And so for me, it's easy enough to just use a handheld because that works in that scenario. I could use my TV while I'm there, but I just prefer the handheld. I don't know what it is. I don't really like using the TV. I like using the handheld instead. I don't like using a tablet and controller because you don't have a good way to put that. You need a flat surface for it. Don't like using a laptop because that burns my lap. And lastly, I don't like telescopic controllers. I haven't really found any good ones. They're mostly fine for the most part, but using my phone plus a telescopic controller, my phone throttles, my phone, then I have to charge it more during the day than I did before. there's notifications, all of that sort of thing. It is not a good time. I used to do that. I don't want to go back to that. I would rather have a dedicated device, and that's where the handheld comes in. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts? What do you use? Why use a handheld? Or if you're a person that's watching this and doesn't use a handheld, why does everything else work for you? Let's jump over into device news now, and just quickly on the Anbernic RG557, I wanted to talk about it because I keep getting questions about it. I am not going to be reviewing the RG557. I mentioned a few weeks or so, or maybe a month or so back, that it's been a long time now, but I have stopped working with third-party resellers, so I don't get review units from them anymore. I cut that off. I don't want to deal with it for a lot of different reasons that we talked about before. And I also don't get review units from Anbernic. So for me, it becomes a scenario where this is a good and a bad thing, because in scenarios like this, where there's a device that comes out, I can choose if I want to review it by buying it or not. So it's a scenario of, do I want to spend $250 or $250 to purchase a device for review that I really have no interest in, and I'm pretty sure is pretty bad of a device. So it's a bad thing on that front for any viewers, but it's a good thing from my perspective, because I have more choice now. I don't have to use certain links in my videos. I don't have to point to certain websites when I get them. And overall, it's just a scenario where as a reviewer, I can just buy everything and review them, with small exceptions of devices that I still get for a review. But for me, this works out a little bit better, I think. And anyways, back to the RG557 scenario. I didn't want to spend $250 on a device like this that personally I don't think is worth it. Personally, it's not a great device from anything that I've seen. And so I'm not going to recoup that cost. I don't know why I would do it at that point. So it doesn't really make sense for me. I realize that kind of sucks for anybody that wants to see a review on it, but my time is kind of valuable. I would rather work on other things than that device. And I'm starting to see this now from this perspective of, you know what, maybe stepping back a little bit from doing reviews on every single device and just doing it on the devices that maybe matter or maybe actually have some sort of place in our community is the better route. Because again, my time is valuable. Instead of me wasting a week fully testing a device and doing all that sort of thing, putting my portal down and having to use a device that I don't want to use for a week and testing it, doing a review, mentioning all of the negatives, getting harassed for mentioning negatives, and then starting that cycle all over again on another device, maybe I can avoid all of that by not doing any of that. So that's where I'm at with the RG557, and so we're not going to be reviewing it. Now, speaking of devices that I'm not going to review, the Ayaneo Pocket Ace finally has pricing, and it is about exactly what everybody expected, starting at $339 plus shipping for the 8GB, 128GB version. And it goes all the way up to $599 for the Retro Power Colored version, which is a 16GB, 1TB version. That $339 becomes $459 when it becomes retail pricing, and that $599 becomes $699 when it becomes retail pricing there. We talk a lot about gross practices and things like that. This is one practice I would love to see go away. Just the amount of price difference there between forcing you into an Indiegogo order or waiting for retail when you find out that, hey, here's the reviews on the device. Hey, here's what's actually broken. Hey, here's what's being fixed. All that sort of thing. It doesn't help you in this scenario with Ayaneo devices to wait, because you're going to pay, in this scenario, $120 more to be a good consumer. And so I don't like this. This is one of the things that I don't like when companies do, is this sort of major discount during pre-orders and all of that, because it forces you into making a decision that isn't good for you as a consumer. Now, as far as my thoughts on the pricing and all of that, I think you already know what my thoughts are going to be, so I'm just not going to rehash it here. Honestly, I like this design quite a bit. I like the look of it quite a bit. But I'll wait for Retroid or AYN to make the same device for a third of the price in a few months, because that's usually what happens. The Retroid Pocket 5 grip is finally coming next month, apparently. We have some pictures of it. And so it's just in time for the release of the Retroid Pocket 5. Look, if you ever needed more evidence that AYN and Retroid are sharing designers or factories or whatever, just look at the design of the grip and how it is covering the intakes like it does on the portal. I have no other information on this one, just keep an eye out for next month and then you can order it if you want it. We just finished voting on our Game of the Month and ROM Hack of the Month for May. And for Game of the Month, Ratchet and Clank for PS2 won. So going back to the roots of Ratchet and Clank. And then for ROM Hack of the Month, Super Mario World Return to Dinosaur Land for SNES won out there. And it is basically just a sequel to Super Mario World. The levels are pretty easy so far. It's not too difficult, so it's a pretty fun one. Reminder, Suikoden is still our game of the season, so those are awesome games for you to play, and you can come join the Discord and play those games. Jumping over to game news now, and the Switch just got an update to 20.0.0, and with that update, they removed the ability to play games at the same time with your digital purchases. Before, you could do that across two different devices if you were linked. You would have one digital purchase, you could play online at the same time, all that sort of thing. You can't do it anymore. There is a workaround that you can do if you set the primary console to airplane mode or disconnect it from the internet, but you can't have both devices play online at the same time anymore in the same game. I figured something like this would happen after I saw the news of the virtual card system, but this still does suck for anybody that utilizes this. This news comes in from Matt Davis, so thank you, Matt. EA is pausing the development of future rally racing games and likely will be giving up the WRC license, which means no more dirt games. Now, if I recall correctly, their F1 license is also running out next year, and I'm very curious to see what they do on the Formula One side, if it's going to be anything similar to what they're doing here with the WRC. Now, this could be the worst day ever for dirt fans, or it could be the best day ever, depending on who takes up this license. So we'll see what goes on. Now, I had initially decided that at this point in the video, I would talk for about 10 minutes about Expedition 33, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, but then I decided to just do a dedicated video because I could not wait the one more day to talk about that game. And so, if you want my thoughts on Clair Obscur Expedition 33, you should watch that video. It is my first actual game review video that I've ever done, so it's a bit different than my normal content. The video totally flopped. It is not doing well at all, but it was fun to do, so I enjoyed it. I'm not mad at all about it. I got to get the word out about the Expedition 33 game as much as I can. And so today, I'm not going to talk about it a lot. Go watch that video. The game is an absolute masterpiece through and through. You should play it. I don't even know why you're watching this. Just go play that game. Stop watching me. Besides all of that, I have been playing the 100-line Last Defense Academy by the Danganronpa and Zero Escape series creators. That game is super fun. I'm enjoying it. It is scratching the Danganronpa itch a little bit, but I would still love to see more Danganronpa if they ever could. That is it for all of the news. Let's go over into the newscast Q&A. And a reminder, newscast@joeysretrohandhelds.com is the email address if you want to send in your emails. Or you could come join the Discord. There's a newscast Q&A channel. You can send in your questions through there. This first question comes in from Taco. How does it feel to have passed over the 1-year mark of the Retro Newscast? Having started with Chinese New Year and the Game Force Ace release, what has been the most fulfilling part of the newscast so far to you in the last 51 episodes? Also, congrats on episode 52. Thank you for my favorite content that I enjoy every week, Joey. I had no idea that it has been a whole year since I started this. So thank you, Taco, for pointing that out. And I guess this is episode 52 if we were doing episodes, but that's cool. I had no idea. I basically started this because I did not see a news kind of video style, really anything, on a weekly basis that was short, to the point, and just gave people what they need to know so they could go off with their day in like 20 minutes or less, or around there. I know our newscast has been going longer lately, but that's mostly because of Q&A. They can just get the news and leave if they want to. So that part has been great. I've been enjoying doing that. There was lots of points throughout the year where I've decided or wanted to decide to cut off the newscast, which I'm glad I didn't do. I think it's evolved to its good point now. whereas before it was a little bit unstructured and wasn't as great. But I think now, and where it's at now, I'm very happy with. So I'm glad that we got there with the newscast. I'm glad I didn't shut it down, and I'm glad that it's going to keep going, because this is probably one of my highlights of the week, is doing the newscast. This next question comes in from Draven. Hey, recent subscriber. So sorry if you've already done this. What is your current go-to device for different emulations? Like, I'm feeling some Game Boy Advance games. Think I'll grab my RG557 SP. Or, man, I need a fix of that PS2 game. Better go grab my Odin. Or whatever. Is it situational? Like, it depends on if you're in the car, passenger, of course, or on the couch, or traveling, or at home, etc. Continue with the great content, and know your opinions matter to many, so no shame in sharing it. So, Draven, the answer to all of your questions here is the Odin 2 Portal, and I am not kidding at all. The Odin 2 Portal is honestly the only device that I use. Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, PS2, GameCube, everything. It doesn't matter. Name a platform, I'm playing it on there, including modern games. I played all of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on my Portal, streamed using Artemis. So, the answer to all of your questions is the Odin 2 Portal. Now, this actually might surprise you, but I am not doing PS2 or GameCube natively on the Portal. I am streaming both of those using Artemis. I just find that RPCSX2 is better for PS2, and I find that GameCube on Windows has retro achievements, so I want those. So I stream both of those to my Portal. I don't play them natively. But everything else I play natively. And yeah, I don't have a second device really right now. I've been looking for a companion on-the-go device. The Flip 2 was supposed to be that, but we all know how that went. The Flip 1 is actually what I've been using. I was using that at the doctor's office, and it worked out perfectly. So I think that's actually probably what's going to be my on-the-go go-to device. But it's not my perfect on-the-go device. Like, the Portal is my perfect at-home device. I still need a perfect clamshell USB-C charging 16:9 device for on the go, which right now it's the Flip 1, but we'll see in the future what comes out. Last question of the day, this comes in from Matt Davis. Canada held their federal elections this week. Are you happy with the outcome? And how exactly do you expect the results to impact the retro handheld scene in Canada? Are we politicking now? Are we doing the politics thing all over this? I'm kidding. I don't mind answering politic questions. It's fine to me. It doesn't matter. I think separating politics from things that are affecting our hobby, which is politics, doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, we can talk about it. We can cool and be adults about it. But the results won't affect retro handhelds in Canada at all. We don't really have that here. It wasn't one party was talking about tariffs or problems for retro handhelds and one wasn't. Either one would have been fine for retro handhelds. And so for me, I'm happy with who won. I wanted a majority for them, the Liberals, but they didn't get it. So it's unfortunate. Either way, glad that the Liberals won on my end. Majority would have made us stronger when dealing with what we have to deal with, unfortunately. But right now, it's good. Basically, we aren't affected by anything on the retro handhelds front, or really anything like you guys are down south. So it's status quo for us. Whatever happens, happens. But if manufacturers raise their prices wholesale instead of just for Americans, then we'll be affected. But otherwise, nothing changes. That is all we have this week. Again, newscast@joeysretrohandhelds.com is the email address, or come join the Discord. Newscast Q&A section or channel is where you can send in your questions. Appreciate you all for watching, and that's all from me, Saint Madeleine de la Rivière Madeleine. I'm not even French. I think that was pretty good.